Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and, well, welcome to this video. Now I had a game that I was going to show you in my T32, and I was looking around for a game to pair it with, to make a slightly longer video. I usually try and pair these games up, so there's kind of two game videos, sometimes three. You know, it just makes the video longer than about 7 minutes. And I remembered, of course, that Trilloc had sent me a T32 game himself, so I thought, yeah, why not? Let's make it a T32 Bonanza. So, this is Trilloc 1945, and he is in a Dinglers platoon. We've got J-Noob up ahead of him in the IS-3, and there's also another over on the right-hand side there, also in his IS-3, so a trio of tier 8 heavy tanks. Trilloc bucking the trend and going the American route rather than the Soviet route. Now you are going to see a few APCR rounds used both in this game and in the next game, and that kind of speaks volumes for the gun on this tank. And I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. I have a full tank review of this machine if you're interested on my channel, so it's relatively recent, so by all means go and check that out. But the gun has the worst penetration of its tier class, combined with one of the worst accuracy, in fact it might even be the worst accuracy of its tier class. Yes it is, because the BL9 and the IS-3 is actually slightly more accurate for those reasons. And when you combine that with very mediocre alpha damage and whatnot, DPM, it just makes the gun a thoroughly ugly weapon to use. Anyway, we're here on El Haluf, and we are in the tier 8 game, so these guys are top tier. Now, Trilloc is rushing forward. He's wasted no time in getting up into this position, which is perfectly sensible. He did take a hit doing so. Sometimes you get those sneaky medium tanks get into a position from which they can shoot you shots into your side, and Trilloc does take a hit, but it's only a 240 alpha damage. Now obviously ideally he wouldn't have taken that, but you know, it could be worse. I mean, Jay there has actually lost about 900 health already. I'm wondering if it was not a I can actually see that. But regardless, they don't manage to find anyone on the corner, so the platoon kind of fans out here, and Trilloc has found a T150 to play with. Alas, the shot doesn't hit the target, and Trilloc actually takes, I think that was a HE shell from artillery there, which knocks out his gun. It sounded like a HE round. Or heat. Seeing as it did damage as well, my money's on it being HE. Shot there blows off his tracks. Now we could actually use his repair kit on the gun, and as if he'd psychic, that's exactly what he does. So, coming over here, what have we got? Well, we've got the platoon, so 2 IS-3s and a T32, plus a KV-5, a Black Prince, and someone else, facing off against an IS-3, and Trilloc tracks that guy in place, so he uses a repair kit to get out of dodge, a T28 prototype, and before another took him out, there was of course that T150, and J-Noob manages to take out the enemy AMX CDC there, but alas, he gets shot down by artillery, because clearly he was camping in the back of the map. What are you going to do? So, moving over here, we've got this T28 prototype and this IS-3. Now, I must admit, if I were Trilloc here, I would be being a little bit more careful about how I angled my armour. He had his armour relatively flat on to both the T28 prototype and the IS-3 over there, so any shots he took were very unlikely to do anything other than just penetrate him. Oh, T28 gets taken out. Having said that, it looks like Trilloc takes that round from the IS-3 on the turret, and the T32 does have a very, very good turret, so he bounces that round. Just considering his options, he's up here with another and that Black Prince. Black Prince takes 279 to the base. Now, that doesn't seem like an IS-3. I guess that would possibly have to be a mid-roll. I can't be bothered to work it out. No, in fact that's too low even for a mid-roll. And so I'm not sure who it was that actually shot that Black Prince, so we need to be aware there's likely someone else in the background. My money's on the Jagdpanther. This IS-3 is tracked, and he takes another shot to the face. Unfortunately, another gets taken out by the same artillery who has nailed the other platoon mate, Jay. Hopefully, that artillery piece won't make it 3 of the platoon. Trillick finishes off that IS-3 called Just Another Hero and manages to not get slammed by 2 separate artillery shells. Worth pointing out, they were likely from the S-51 and the GW Panther. I imagine the FV was reloading, and also those 2 artillery are in platoon. So there's a good chance they were both aiming in the same place. So Trillick is just going to push up here and runs into a Borsig. Now, against El Borsiga, that was actually a really nice shot. He tracked the Borsig in place as well as doing damage to him. Against a Borsig, the Borsig's armour is terrible, so Trillick could actually be loading his HE rounds, which would do 420 alpha damage, and the 53 penetration should be more than enough to blitz straight through the Borsig. Now, in practice, it may not make a huge difference because that was very unlikely to actually one-shot the Borsig, so he'd probably still require another shot to finish the guy off, but it's worth bearing in mind for the future. Borsig's using the big gun. No, he's not, that's a lie, he's using a small gun. Takes his shot, but manages to miss Trillick, and Trillick polishes him off. Now, the friendly Black Prince did get nailed by the Jag Panther. You can see him on the minimap now. I told you he was around somewhere. It's always worth paying attention to how much damage people are taking. Then you can kind of get an idea of what sort of guns are likely to be around. Look at the team list and see what sort of people are likely to be around as a result. And with the death of the light tank, that suddenly means that it's just Trillick here with the 2 tier 8 artillery on his team, and there are actually 3 FV207s in this game, which is unusual. You don't usually see 3 of the same artillery piece, certainly not 3 of that artillery piece. There we go. So, the scoreline is currently 3 tanks remaining on Trillick's team versus 2 on the enemy, but this is not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination, because of those 5 remaining tanks, 3 of them are artillery, and the FV only really needs to sneeze in Trillick's general direction in order to kill him. Trillick manages to find the Jag Panther though, puts a shot into him, and then his artillery friend executes him, and Trillick almost gets executed himself. Loses a bit of health there to splash damage from the FV207, but crucially, the FV's attempts to bag the entire platoon are thus far foiled. So Trillick is moving up here. Going to try and find that FV207. Now, considering where that shell landed to Trillick's left-hand side, my money is on the artillery. I was about to say being somewhere up in the A0 kind of region. And the reason... Trillick, well, even in Charmed Life. And the reason I say that is because... there we go, the guy dies as the friendly artillery takes him out. And that's the game. The reason I say that is because if the artillery had been shooting from the other common location, which is over in sort of E9, I don't imagine he'd have had the arc to land a shot on the far side of Trillick's tank, if that makes sense. So, again, you can use where shots are landing and where you take damage from to pinpoint the location of your opponents, including enemy artillery. Anyway, that was the game, so let's go and have a quick look at those results. So there we go, that game was enough for First Class Mastery, Spotter, Hand of God, Bruiser, and Fire for Effect ribbons. Trillick did 2,385 damage, got 2 kills, and finished top on his team by experience. Another managed a bit more damage actually, 2,733, 3 kills and 895 base experience, and unfortunately Jay got wrecked by artillery quite close to the beginning, so he only had a chance to get 590 alpha damage off, but still managed to pick up a kill. So all things considered, that was a pretty nice performance from the platoon there. Commiserations to the enemy FV207, who managed to rack up a decent amount of damage, and the enemy M41 Walker Bulldog with 2k damage, and indeed the ELC, because frankly 1000 damage in a tier 8 game in a tier 5 light tank is nothing to be sniffed at. Trillock fired 12 shots there, of which 10 hit, 8 penetrated for that damage count, and I imagine the primary reason why Trillock got more experience than his platoon mate despite doing less damage was because he also got 1,000 assistance damage into the bargain. Well, 1,178. Now, you can see Trillock did fire quite a few APCR rounds there, and so he didn't make much of a profit. In fact, he didn't make a profit at all. In fact, with a premium account, he made a 19,000 credit loss. Would have been a 36,000 credit loss without a premium account. And made a nice amount of experience for the tank. And as I say, if I was going to offer any bits of advice from that game, it would just be to pay a bit more attention to the way you're angling your armour. And also, Borsigs are made of tissue paper. With a 105 gun, you can just load HE against them and do more damage. Anyway, that's the first game. Let's go and have a look at the second. Here we are then. This is the game that I was originally talking about that I had, that I was going to show, and I was looking for a game to pair it with. So, here we go. This is, again, T32, Tier 8 American heavy tank for those who are not aware. Just change that. This is an assault game on Erlenberg. I had to think for way too long before I remembered what the name of the map was. Tier 9 game, as I said, so it's kind of middle of the road matchmaking. Although if you actually look at the matchmaking, I say it's a Tier 9 game, but the only people who are bottom tier in terms of matchmaking are actually a bunch of Tier 6 light tanks. It's kind of odd matchmaking in that sense. Enemy team has an E75 and an M103. We have a T54 and an Object 704 and a bunch of Tier 8s and whatnot. In fact, most of both teams are Tier 8 or get Tier 8 matchmaking. There's quite a few heavy tanks, Tier 8 heavy tanks in this setup. Anyway, this was while I was still using, I'd been cheap and not bought proper equipment for this tank, so this is the pauper equipment, if you will. So we're talking binos, camo net, toolbox. Not exactly an optimal equipment setup for a Tier 8 heavy tank, and certainly not the equipment I would recommend for this thing. I later fitted it with some proper equipment. See a VK 4502P oust A, decide to have a punt, but well, we managed to hit him, which is something, given the accuracy of this gun, but we don't manage to penetrate the VK, despite the fact that VK's armour isn't great. Although actually, the VK's armour is actually quite good against, you know, those sort of 170 odd pen guns, because it doesn't really have a lower front plate, or not that's weaker than the upper plate. We've been spotted out. Our team's got 2 kills already, nailing a pair of their light tanks, and there's an awful lot of their team that have come over to this corner. Now I find that in an assault on Erlenberg, if you are on the defending team, usually coming over to this corner is a pretty poor idea, because generally speaking you'll get a selection of people who will engage you from hold down positions, which is similar to where I am, and I've gone a bit too far there and I take a hit from trouble. That was entirely my own fault. And they will have support in the same way that we have fire support from an IS-3, and to be fair, he's moving up, and more to the point, an Object 704. So yeah, usually I don't like coming up here if I'm on the defending team. Whoa, don't shoot me, Mr. T32. What is this? Please do not shoot me. Not like you shot me before. Scoreline is still 2-0. You'll notice I didn't actually sing that one, because my singing ability is terrible. But we have now lost an M41 Bulldog, so that leaves it 2-1. Now that T32 is in a slightly annoying position. In order to reliably get shots on us, he does actually have to expose himself quite a lot. No jokes, please. But it's still an irritating position, because it means that if we're going to go and deal with anyone on the up on the hill here, we have to worry about that T32 putting a shot into our side, and it's all quite irritating. So, kind of annoying. We've got T71 up here, very good little machine. Oh my lord, that's not the sort of thing you want to run straight into. And I think that was the T28. Puts 120mm shell into our face. So far, we're not exactly doing too well. We've put 1 shot into the VKA. And we've lost about half our health in the process, which is not exactly optimal, let's be honest. Can we pick up the kill on the T71? Yeah, we go. Sneaky kill on the T71 and bounce a shot from someone, might have been that T32, into the bargain, which is nice. Scoreline is 4-2. We are successfully pushing this, but you have to remember, this is an assault game. We only get 10 minutes, and we've burned through almost half of that, and the scoreline is only 4-2. So, yeah, this is far from a foregone conclusion. I mean, even if this were a regular game, it wouldn't be a foregone conclusion. But there's a shot into the rear of an M103. I will take that and take another shot in the side. You can see how annoying the T32 is being. Really making it very awkward for me to engage people. And it's actually quite unusual for someone to be down there and effectively using that position without getting, well, frankly, without getting obliterated. The problem is where he is. His hull, I can, but this gun. Where he is, he's probably out of render range of our friendly object 704. Speaking from experience, typically people over there are just outside your render range, if memory serves. So, that's a little bit awkward. And that's not a penetration. That's definitely not a penetration. We have this awkward Mexican standoff, and there's an E75, not that I can really penetrate him either. That's all a bit sad. 5-5, and we now have less than 5 minutes on the clock to polish this game off. So this is all being a little bit cagey and a little bit awkward. Really, in order for us to progress, this E75 and this T32 both need to go up to the junkyard in the sky. Scoreline is now 5-6, we're actually trailing. Now I've moved up here, my idea was actually to get shots on this E75 and the T32, bounce the E75 shell, thank goodness for the turret armour, and I currently have an APCR shell loaded because I was going to try and kill this E75, and I'm really going to struggle with my 198 with my regular shells, but the 245 with the APCR might be able to do the job, if I get the right shot. It's not auto penetration, but if I get the right shot, it might do the job. That was never going to penetrate. Now, I didn't think this was going to penetrate, and indeed it doesn't. But I took the shot anyway on the off chance. Managed to track him, though. So I'm moving up here to try and get a shot into his lower front plate. Pretty sure he's reloading. And there we go. Turns out he wasn't actually... Well, he did actually put a shot into me, but it only damaged my observation device. And I managed to put that APCR round into his lower front plate. And the E75 is very not happy about it. I saved my APCR for you. I try not to use it, and it's not auto-pen. I still needed to hit your weak spots, but it gave me a chance of penetrating your weak spots, because I ain't going to pen the lower front plate of an E75 with the AP rounds from this gun. It's just not happening. Anyway. IS-3 over there. T-32 is still down away to our left. Our IS-3 is pushing up. I wish he'd push up a bit more because he actually has the health to take shots to the face, and we really need to push this flank. We are running out of time. So I'm telling the IS-3 to go for it. He seems really reticent. It actually looks like he hasn't got the top gun. Not that that's really relevant to the current situation, but it looks like the stock turret and the stock gun. Really worried about that IS-3. I managed to put a shell into him. I get a bit lucky there. Often when you don't properly aim at an IS-3, you know your shot goes nowhere near where you aimed it. But I managed to reduce the enemy IS-3 to a one-shot, so our IS-3 has now plucked up the courage and is going for it, but he's using the stock gun with 175 pen, and he gave the enemy IS-3 3 shots into his flank, so I'm not going to be expecting miracles from that fella. STA-1 is also over here. Can we nail the IS-3? Yes, we can. There we go. Kill number 3. And there's also the STA-1 up here, who just nailed the other IS-3, who was on my left. So pushing up, there's a Ferdinand over here as well. Ferdinand is slightly dubious news. Hello, Mr. STA-1. And we have 1 minute 40 left on this game. I am loading APCR because I'm facing off against a Ferdinand. I do not have the time to sod around flanking him and all this jazz. I do not have the accuracy to aim for his weak spots. I just need this guy to die. 1 minute 24 left. It's him and an Oho. Now, I have no idea where that Oho is, or I just bounced a shot from 30. It looks like this Ferdinand might be using the stock gun. One more penetration on the Ferdinand to take him out and allow our team to move up. There he is. And there he goes, kill number 5. Switching back to armor piercing now. Although, frankly, with an OHO remaining, I might actually want to use a VCR still, but we shall see. 50 seconds left on this game. We may well have to cap this one out. And because it's an OHO left and we don't have long left, you'll actually see I am switching back to a PCR. I carried 8 rounds, or carried 8 rounds in this machine. I have 3 of those left. But we are capping this, so if we can get into the cap circle, we can hopefully still pick up a win. There are 3 of us sitting in the capture circle, and providing this OHO doesn't get back to us, and I don't think he's going to in time, then we can win this game by cap. This is one of those situations when capping is your friend. We're never going to chase that OHO down, so let's just sit in the capture circle and win it that way. Far better. Bit of an anticlimax to the game, but it secures the victory, and that's what we're interested in here. So, let's go and have a look at the results for this one. So when I played this game, I didn't actually think it was a particularly impressive result, especially as we capped out to win, which means, for those who don't know, there is an experience multiplier you get at the end of the game. That multiplier is larger, the fewer tanks are remaining on the enemy team. So to get the largest multiplier, you kill them all. So if you win by cap, you don't get as much of a multiplier. But it was still apparently enough for an ace tanker, so what do I know? 5 for effect, fighter, shellproof, spotter, bruiser, and steel wall medals, which is all very nice. We actually ended up only doing 2,772 damage, so I was surprised this was an ace. And we got 5 kills as well to add to that, which I guess helps. And it was actually 1,336 base experience, which I definitely was not expecting. I didn't think it would be that much. Turns out we fired 16 rounds, of which 14 hit, 11 penetrated for that damage count. We received more hits than I remembered, actually. 13 hits, of which 10 did not penetrate. So a total of 3,270 damage blocked by our armor, damaged 7 enemy tanks, killed 5, and got 1,580 assistance damage into the bargain. And if we have a look, it looks like that was mainly on the T28 and the VKA, and the M103, so in that engagement, that first engagement up on the sort of hill type region. Got 19 capture points, travelled 2.6 kilometers. Now, we did fire some APCR rounds that game, 5 of them if memory serves, but they did the job. 4 of the 5 did their job anyway. So with a standard account, we would have made a 5,000 credit loss. We were running a premium account at the time, so we actually made a 14,000 credit profit. And we got a reasonable amount of experience into the bargain. Once you throw in the premium bonus, it's 2,000, double it over 4,000, plus a bit of free XP. So it actually ended up being, apparently, a decent result, but it really didn't feel like it. It did not. It's one of those games, it didn't feel well played. Felt like I played it like a bit of a scrub, to be honest. And in a way, I was a little irritated that I had to use some APCR rounds there. Irritated just from the perspective that generally I try to avoid them. But the gun on the T32 is kind of naff, and in the situations that I was in, didn't have the time to sod around. I mean, the battle duration was 9 minutes 56 seconds of a 10-minute game. We were cutting it close to the wire as it was, so we had to make sure we got the win there. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of replays in the T32. Thank you very much, Trilloc, for sending that replay in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As I said, if you did, by all means, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.